Here we go. I hope you can hear me. No, I'm good. I hope you can hear me. I don't know if anybody is here yet. It's not showing anyone to be here. But if you're here and you want to ask any questions, ask below. So I was just doing this live feed because people had been asking me questions about how we did K-2 homeschooling. I have a bunch of kids, and so I'm going to explain what kind of grade levels they're in while we're waiting for people to come on. So at home, I have a 17-year-old who just graduated. She turned 17 in March. She graduated April, and she is done with schooling. So she is still home with us, and she still has educational pursuits of things she's wanting to do, but there's not things that I'm assigning to her to do right now. So she is still at home and she is focusing on guitar. She's been kind of teaching herself through lessons online, guitar and Spanish and French. And so she's going to continue doing those along with just evangelism and things she does over her phone out of the house. We also have a 14-year-old boy at home. He would be in like 9th-ish grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. And he, we don't actually do grade, like specific grades with our kids. So he is taking a Hillsdale college history course right now, but we also don't push, like, I don't try to finish a curriculum within 1 year. If they're struggling with it, we do less lesson to make sure that they're actually understanding the lesson before we move on. So I wouldn't say that he does all 8th grade, 9th grade work. It depends on what the subject is. And then like he likes to read. He loves stuff about history. So he might read a college level book about history, but he also might read a 6th or 7th grade level book because he's just interested in the topic that the book's talking about. We then have an 11-year-old. He has cerebral palsy and epilepsy. So he does most of his work with the younger children when we do like our group work and stuff, because he isn't ready to do all of the reading and everything on his own. We have a 9-year-old girl next who would be about 3rd, 4th grade level in school, but she is working above that, and that's fine. We just, like I said, when we have a math curriculum, we do master books, math for a living education or something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but she is just working through it. And so if we finish a book in the middle of the year, we get the next book. And so she's on all different grade levels too. And then the K-2 that I do in the home, we have a 6-year-old son and a 4-year-old son. The 4-year-old son is advanced and he's wanting to read, so he's doing K-2 grade work, but I don't expect my 4-year-olds to be doing that. It's just, that's where he is. We just go by what every child is ready for. Also at home, we have a 2nd grader, and then we have this little guy who's 6 weeks. He's not doing school yet. So anyway, yeah, if anyone has any questions, one of the questions that I was asked in one of my videos was about when I would start the like games that I was playing for the math and the reading. And I would start those with our 2-year-old is following along in the games, but I don't play them specifically with him. But I would say at 3 and 4, I'm definitely playing those games on a regular basis with the kids. Not, hey, let's sit down and do school time, but we're doing it as a, like, this is what we do for fun. So instead of playing, I don't know, there's a lot of games. Most games that you're playing, like board games and everything, do have concepts that work into math or reading or those types of things. I'm gonna take off my glasses because I feel there's glare. So a lot of the games you play, so even something like Candyland, where you're matching colors, is a school concept that you need to do. So I guess instead of just doing fruitless endeavors, we would play games that involve math and reading. So some of those games that I told you about are games that we would play at 3 and 4 years old. But even the 2-year-old, when we're playing, I'll be like, okay, let's find all the purple ones in this stack, or whatever it is. So we just continue to play those games, and then as they seem more ready, we add to the game to add more level of difficulty to it. The things that we talked about for science and history and those types of things, we start reading those types of books when they're little. So one of the books we got from the library this week was called The Immigrant Architect or something like that. And it was about a man who came here with his son, and they started building beautiful buildings all around the country that had vaulted ceilings, and talked about how like an arch is the most structural integrity piece that you can make, and how they used it in all this different architecture. And so we would read that. I've read that twice to the 2-year-old, along with other people. So like I said, the reason we're doing this is if people had questions about how I do K through 2, or a question about your children and what you're looking at home, maybe a difficulty you're dealing with. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to write them down. Also, how big is your family? Like, are you just getting into the K through 2 stage, or are you, have some that you've already gone through K through 2 and now you're starting K through 2? I don't know who's watching. Ooh, I'm kicking my camera. I'm gonna move my camera. So, wait just a second. There we go. It is warm here in Maine today. We were outside playing, but the kids are now taking a rest time inside. So also we try to make a habit of learning about the holidays that are going on. So we all have talked about what's going on tomorrow, and this could be a formal study. With K through 2, it's more, we just talk about the basics of why we're celebrating the 4th of July. The men and women who have fought for our country that we're going to see tomorrow when we go to the parade and see the soldiers and things, why they were willing to risk their life for our freedoms, and why we have to be smart about our maintaining those freedoms, and to make sure that the government's not taking away things that they're not supposed to. So along with the homeschooling thing, I live in the state of Maine, and in the state of Maine, we follow the rules for the state of Maine, which include at the start of the year sending in a letter of intent saying, I would like to homeschool. Well, you send in a letter of intent the first year, and then after that you send in a, forget what it's called, but a subsequent year letter or something like that. And so on the paperwork, I think it was 2 years ago, they sent paperwork and it said, please include your child's birthday. I don't even think they said, please include your child's birthday. And for the state of Maine, we do not have to include our child's birthday. And like, all of my children have birth certificates. The state could easily figure out what day they were born, but it's not part of the homeschooling for us to give that information. And so I only give the information that I'm required to give. I will follow the rules because I don't feel like they are making me do something that's against God's will when they ask those things that are mandated by law. But I also want them to remember that they can't just decide today willy-nilly, oh, I want this other piece of information. It's not required for, not asked for in the law. They can't just make that up that day. So we fill out our subsequent year letter every year of child's name, parent's name, where the schooling's going to happen, and that, yes, I agree. There's like a little written statement. Yes, I agree to teach this many days, and I agree to teach these subjects. And those are the subjects I went over in my other video. And then so that's for the subsequent year letter. I also send in the paperwork that has been the letter that the teacher has written when she reviewed our school year. So you can do that different ways. In our state, you have to talk to a certified state of Maine teacher who reviews what you did for the school year and shows that the child, like, writes a letter that says the child made progress this school year and they will continue homeschooling next year. And so my teacher did that. I have my letters, but they're not required for the state till September 1st, so I haven't taken them over to the post office yet. I think they're supposed to be sent certified mail. I don't really remember because I haven't just gone over to do that piece of paperwork yet. But I have till September 1st. So if you have questions about your state laws too, I can answer those if I have the information or send you to the right place. I have friends that homeschool in a bunch of different states, so I can send you to somebody who could give you more of what happens in their state. I know for the state of Tennessee, you have to have a high school diploma to homeschool your kids. So Virginia got a high school diploma. Like, we gave her a high school diploma, so she has that. She graduated at 17. I don't necessarily plan to graduate all my kids at 17, but Virginia and Naomi were both ready at 17 to graduate. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for me. I love homeschooling. I can't imagine doing anything else with my life. I learned so much alongside the kids about different places and about science and about God, because that's the main thing we focus on, is teaching the kids about God. That's why we want them to learn to read. That's why we want them to learn to do math, because they can explore more of God's world when they know that God made math. Like, man may have figured out different calculations and things like that, but it's all because it's in God's plan. Like, the reason we have, the reason math works is because of God, because God made laws that continue to function. So, like laws of nature. And so it's really neat to be able to learn about science. Every subject you teach, you should be able to point your kids back to God teaching the subject. If you're a Christian, I'm talking to Christians in this video, but like in reading, we learn to read so that we can learn more about God through the Bible, and so that we can learn more from men who came before us, who put their thoughts down on paper, and then we can use those and compare them to the Bible to see if that's an actual truth. We use math so that we can explore more of the world around us and be able to like figure things out. Like being able to do carpentry, you need math so that you can build a house that you can use to be hospitable to people. Science is all about how God created the world around us. And you can use that. Like, every time you study science, you should be able to point to how awesome God is. And every study of science should make you want to be praising God even more. I'm trying to think of the other subject. History, being able to look back and see God. So we had our church just prayed. Our church just taught through Judges not that long ago. And so he always said we can learn about God, man, and God's redemptive plan. And so seeing God and his hand through everything, like learning about the Pilgrims and why they moved here, and learning about the Civil War and why God wanted us to treat all men equal. And I know there were other things in the Civil War besides just slavery, but that was one of the things. But being able to see God functioning in all those things, but also being able to see man and where man has fallen. And that's why we have wars. That's why we have like the depression and inflation and things where people get greedy and prices go up, and companies and monopolies and all of those things, where man has caused problems. And then God's redemptive plan of being able to see God turn something around that looks like evil into good. We just, as a family, finished reading Genesis. And so seeing Joseph and what his brothers did to him, and then God's plan of how it turned around. I'm going to try something. If I accidentally get off live, I'm sorry. I've never done this before, and I don't know if someone could try to write a comment, because I haven't seen anything come up, and maybe it's just because nobody's talkative today, but if someone on here could write a comment so I can see if something actually pops up, because there's nothing. No, I don't want to highlight anything. Okay, go away. I don't know how that started. But anyway, so just being able to see God's... Hi, okay, someone's on. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was going to pop up on the screen and I wasn't avoiding people who were talking to me. So, hi, Erica. So seeing God through all of history and where man has failed and God is still faithful even through those failings. Also seeing just God's, I don't know, we've been studying as a family hymns and why different people wrote hymns, what was going on in their lives when they wrote them, and just seeing how God has saved people through different, he saves people the same way back then as he does now. His salvation plan hasn't changed, but just seeing what people were going through when God made himself known to them and how it changed their lives, and how somebody who was doing things just to glorify themselves turns their life around to glorify God. And that's just really, really neat. physical education and health is just keeping our bodies healthy and learning about our bodies. God made us in a certain way to be able to use our bodies, every part of our body, to glorify Him. And so how can we keep our body strong and healthy so that we can do that for as long as God has for us? And we never know what's going to happen. We never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You know, we might be in a car accident and die or lose use of our limbs or whatever it is. But God is good even through those times. But He's also given us wisdom in how to take care of our bodies, how to eat healthy, how to exercise, how to do all of those things. And so health and physical education is just showing our children how to use our bodies in the way that God has created them to glorify Him. And the fact that He's given us working arms and working legs, like this is coming from our family. We have Josiah, who has cerebral palsy and can't use his arm the same way that other people do, but his body is still created by God and made in a unique way, and God can use him in any way He chooses to. And if that is healing Josiah, then that's awesome. And if that's not healing Josiah and using him in the way that he is, that's awesome too. Library skills is just a lot of ways of teaching kids how to look up information so that they can learn more things about God. Maybe not so much at the public library, learning things about God, because it seems like more and more stuff's getting taken away, but being able to look up that good information. I'm trying to think if there's subjects I didn't cover. There's probably subjects I didn't cover, but pointing your kids to God in everything that you do, because in the public school, they're not going to hear that. They're not going to hear that we want to learn about science so we can learn what God has made and how to glorify Him better. We're going to learn that we are all here as a mistake because of evolution, that, all of these mutations have made us who we are, and we're just one step away from gorillas. And that's not true. And so being able to teach from a biblical worldview. A biblical worldview is really important. Being able to look at everything in your life and go back to, why do I do what I do? And if you as a parent don't have a good biblical worldview, just maybe you weren't raised that way. It was definitely something I had to struggle to figure out. I had a good base of morality when I was first married and having children, but I didn't have a good base of like biblical knowledge and being able to say everything. There's a really loud car out there. Say there's nothing new under the sun. And so if we're dealing with this problem in society, then we can look to the Bible for principles and verses that tell us how we're supposed to look at that topic. And so I think it's really good to be able to point kids in the right direction. So if you don't have a good biblical worldview, I would say to look up Israel Wayne. Recently, it was back in January, but did a podcast with George Barna, who does all the like polls on when kids leave the church and that type of thing. And so they say that most kids' worldview is settled by the time they're 13. And so that means in these K-2 years, we really need to be pointing them to the right thing. How do you choose what to teach your children when it comes to the Bible? I sometimes feel like I can't explain things or answer their questions properly. Good question. As a family, we choose to go through the Bible as a family. We just pick a book of the Bible and we read through it. And so right now we're reading through Exodus. We just got through Genesis. And as we come up to topics, we talk about that topic. So today we were talking about frogs and gnats, the plagues. And one of the points that came up was the Egyptian magicians were able to bring frogs. How they did that, I don't know, but we got talking about the topic of how there are actual bad spirits out there, demons, and how there is power. God is the ultimate power, but we also know that there are acts of darkness here. But when it came to the gnats, the magicians couldn't do that. And as we go through the rest of the plagues, they're not going to be able to do that. So we just talk about what comes up in the topic. But when you can't explain things or answer the question, we use Google. Not just like any Google site, but like Got Answers, I think is the name of it. So hold on, I gotta get my husband's attention. Hey, Mark, can I have you for a minute? So, and here, I have to have Mark answer a question because I'm afraid I'm going to turn off the live. So, Jean just wrote to me and asked about if she could use our oven. So, could you write back to them somehow? I just don't want to turn off the live. Yep. She was asking if she could use our oven. They'd come earlier to put things in the oven at like 4:40. Okay, I don't want to turn this off. So, anyway, Answers is one of the websites we use. Also, we use a Bible YouVersion app on our phone where we look at the Bible, and there's a place where if you're looking at the Bible passage and you click on the passage, like the verse itself, and then at the bottom there's some choices and you can do compare and you can look at it in different versions, and I find that to be really helpful because sometimes just the way another verse is worded or a word that was translated differently. So like today we were looking at the word pools. It said that the frogs were everywhere, including in the pools. And so one of our kids thought it was like they had swimming pools around there, which maybe they did, I don't know. But when we looked at the different translations, it said that that word can be translated pond also. And so it was pretty much saying that all bodies of water had it. But that's one way that we look up stuff. Also, sometimes just telling your child, I don't have an answer for that. We've had that happen with older kids where they're like we used to do, I remember this one specifically, we used to do abortion ministry, and one of the girls asked a question about something in Psalms. I forget what it was. And I don't remember what the question was, but we didn't have a good answer for why the verse said that. And so we asked them to go to one of the people that we were in the group with. So we would like you to text, using daddy's phone, because we don't let the kids use this, but this is something you could do with your little kids, because I know we're talking K-2. But text somebody else. Say, I don't have an answer to that, but let's text the pastor and ask him. It's okay to tell your kids, I don't have all the answers, because as an adult, we don't have all the answers. And that's part of learning, is being able to admit, I don't know this thing and I'm going to go look it up, or I'm going to go ask the right person. So teaching your kids where to go get that information. But also I find it useful to read the passage beforehand. So if you're going to be reading Bible with your kids, read the chapter the night before, and then if you have a question you already know is going to be asked that you don't know how to answer, or sometimes when you're reading things like in Genesis where there's a lot of interesting stories of how you want to explain it to your kids, it gives you a little bit of time to come up with the answer of what does it mean when Cain knew his wife, that type of thing. So I hope that answers the question. Got a question. Which religion are you? Are you Mennonites? Oh, hi, Germany. Nice to have you here. No, we're not Mennonites. We actually go to a Reformed Baptist church. I started wearing my head covering when we were going to a Plymouth Brethren church, which is the same roots, Anabaptist roots, as Mennonites. And we used to go to the Plymouth Brethren church here in our area, but that church had kind of like a church split, and we started going to a Reformed Baptist church, which I say is closest to what our beliefs are, but we really appreciated the Anabaptist roots we've learned from Mennonite and Plymouth Brethren people that we knew. But that's why I wear the head covering. And we just choose to wear skirts and dresses as our family's way to be modest, but pants can be modest also. My husband and I just did a video about that. So if you look on our channel, there's a whole thing about modesty. I don't believe that skirts and dresses is the only way to be modest. And so it's just what we've chosen to do as a family. It's distinctly feminine, so we've chosen to do that. But does that answer your question? If I'm answering someone's question and it doesn't answer the whole question, please ask something else. But if someone else has a question too. In Germany, there are also some Russian German Baptists. I don't know about Russian German Baptists. That's something I'm gonna have to look up. That is the nice thing about homeschooling, is it starts to become that everything becomes educational. Like you can go look up these things with YouTube and Google and all of that at our fingertips. It's easy to just go look in a search box and be able to get some information and decide if it's something you want to continue to pursue or not. Sometimes it leads us on huge rabbit trails. We've had, the kids have recently been playing that they are Secret Service agents, because something came up about the Secret Service, and the other day we had some sick kids, so we were just watching some videos online, and it came to the point that we were discussing the president's car and the Secret Service that were with him, and so they've all been pretending. So they are Germans which lived for generations in Russia, and who are German, you know, just like most Americans have some German ancestors. That's interesting. Yeah, I've got some German blood in, I don't have any Russian, but yes, I have some German blood. We are French German, my ancestors. And so, yeah, I'll have to look them up. It's neat. If you don't mind me asking what math curriculum to use for the older children, I have a 13-year-old who's struggling in that area. Okay, so for math curriculum, I don't have one certain math curriculum that I use for all of the children. As they get older, because it depends on what they're focused on. I feel like math is something that they need to learn depending on what they're going to be using the math for. I don't make all of my children go through trigonometry because I have children who are not math minded. I feel like God's going to help you to learn the things that you need to learn, and I don't necessarily think that my child who's a hands-on learner, who's going to be a carpenter, needs to learn the same English education as the child who's going to be a writer. And I don't feel that, I feel a carpenter is going to have to learn different math than a homemaker who's going to be using it in different areas. So we have gone through the 6th grade level of math from master books. And then we have been picky and choosy. So I actually am about to have Samuel start a consumer math. He's kind of finishing something right now, but he's going to be starting a consumer math that I found online. And so I don't remember it off the top of my head, but if this is the Erica that I'm thinking is the Erica that I have information to get you on Instagram, I can send that to you after this video when I find it, because it's on this phone. Okay, so you're German, also have a little bit of French, Belgian, and Hungarian blood inside me, but that's a lot of generations ago. Yeah, ours was a lot of generations ago. Our kids love learning about our family history, and my grandmother did a genealogy of my grandpa's family and her family, so we have the two. And my kids think it's really, really fun because my mom's maiden name was Nice Wander, and our pastor's last name is Nice Wonger. And the kids think it's really funny that we're somehow related because the name got changed at Ellis Island because nobody could pronounce it. It was actually Neuenschwander originally, from the Alsace-Lorraine region in France. And so the kids think that that's really fun that we're somehow related to our pastor centuries and centuries back. And my husband's family is English blood. And so we're related to some, one of the kings in England. I don't remember. The kids read the genealogies that were written by aunts and uncles and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if it's Huguenot or not. By the way, talking about history, for this person in Germany, are you Baptist? Like, are you of religious faith? Because we were watching an interesting show recently that if you're of a Protestant faith, that would probably be interesting, but I don't want to offend anybody either because that's not what this video is about. So anyway, if people have more questions, we're talking about K-2 education, but I can talk about anything. I just like to talk. So yeah, teaching history is really it covers so many things, because history, you talk about the writers in history, and then you can, you know, kind of do an offshoot topic of learning about a certain writer, or you can do an offshoot of somebody who created, you know, or found something historically in science through that, or mathematicians and when things were, it's all historical in nature. So, oh, okay, different Erica. I'm trying to think of where I got the consumer math. I know that there's some math program you can use on, what's it called? Plain Yet Not Plain and Not So Plain, I think is the name of it. Her name is Amy Marion, and it's a free online math that you can use. But the consumer math, I'm trying to remember. If it comes to mind, I will let you know. I'm sorry, Erica. I was thinking through all my things for this grade level, and I couldn't remember. But if I can put, when this gets on YouTube, I'll try to put a comment below the YouTube comment to tell you which one it is. Like on this video once it loads. I live in Northern Westphalia, so I was baptized in Catholic faith. Me personally, I am an agnostic, and I still love and respect every faith, Jewish, Muslim, as well as Christian denominations. Well, we were watching an interesting video. I think you can find it on YouTube, and it's called Epic by Tim Challies, and he goes around to different places in Europe. Maybe he goes to other places, but we've only started watching in Europe. And he finds different artifacts that show something from the Christian faith. So like there was this Bible that was translated and illustrated on the island of Iona by some of the first Christians on that island that were translating the Bible. And so he goes and like shows you that Bible and shows you just different things like that, different artifacts he finds in the different countries. And so he was like Ireland and Scotland last night, and the grave of John Knox, which is a parking space in like outside a cathedral, but it's just a numbered parking spaces where this guy's grave is. So it was just kind of an interesting show. So do we have more questions about K-2 education? Again, I don't mind talking about other things, but if someone's here because they specifically had a question about K-2, I don't want to miss that either. Is it warm where you are? It's warm where I am. I'm trying to drink some electrolytes to keep up my milk supply for baby, because he has gotten a little warm recently. Right, baby? Yeah. People who are on here, I know Erica homeschools. Erica, how many kids are you homeschooling? And anyone else who wants to answer that question, how many kids are you homeschooling and what ages do you have? Oh, I know. I have this little guy. I was saying it at the start for people who weren't here. I have this little guy is 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks, up to 17 years old here at home. Plus we have a daughter who's 21 who's about to have a baby, and we have a 28-year-old. Okay, question. So in Europe, it is uncommon to circumcise the boys, and in the US, it's very high. But how does it look like with baptized? Is it a must? No. We, Jewish people, Jewish people were commanded to circumcise their sons. We believe that a lot of those ceremonial laws were to set the Jewish people apart, but that Jesus came and fulfilled those things. And so as a Christian, I do not believe that it is a religious act that we have to do. And because it has health risks that go with it, we do not do it. We do, with our Reformed Baptist faith, we baptize like believers, I don't know how I would say it, like people who are old enough to make that decision for themselves. We do not baptize our babies, so it doesn't have to do, we don't do something at the same time. But we do not circumcise our boys. That I know is something that is very common in America, and people don't understand why we don't do it. But I feel that it is a medical procedure that isn't necessary. And if I felt it was necessary for our religion, I would do that. But I feel like it was done to set the Jewish people apart, and specific command that they were given by, the Jewish people were given by God. So, does that answer the question? And we had decided that way back when we first started having children, that we weren't going to circumcise our boys. I know for some people that it's all they've ever known, and it's kind of like when your kid turns 5, you put them on the school bus and that's all they've ever known, and homeschooling seems like a really radical thing. I think as less people circumcise their boys, it's going to be an easier decision to make because people will know that it's not just a necessary that they have to do. So yeah, here at home we have 6 boys and 2 girls. We also have an older boy and an older girl that have already moved out of the house. That's the children we have. German European understand it very well because we think that we only need to do this when it's medically necessary. Yes. And it's actually interesting because one of the providers that we see, we're in a practice for the kids, for their doctor. There's multiple providers in the same building, and we had to go for one of our little boys for an issue, and I found out that our provider doesn't circumcise her boys. She feels that it's only something medically necessary. So that was nice to know that one of the providers was on ours. The providers have never given me a problem, but knowing that there's a provider that actually for her family decided that it wasn't the right decision either made it nice, because I figured that they would want that done. But it's never been a problem. So yeah, we started homeschooling. For those who are new to the channel, we started homeschooling when my oldest son had some hearing problems and couldn't keep up with the class because he couldn't hear. Like, it was nothing against him. Just when you can't hear, it's hard to know what's going on around you. And because we didn't know he couldn't hear, there were no accommodations made. So sometimes they'll make accommodations. So yeah, it is very rare in the United States. Sometimes the accommodations are made so that like they can see the teacher's face so they can understand what's going on. But we didn't know any of that at the time. So I had done 1 year of special education and felt like I'd keep him home and get him caught up. And I liked it so much that I never sent him back. So because we were having so much fun homeschooling and he was learning so much better than he was in the typical classroom. He just needed more personalized help than he was getting there. So that's why we started homeschooling. So he was going into 2nd grade when we started homeschooling. He's our son that's moved out. He's 28. And so my other kids have never been to public school. And that definitely has changed our family's trajectory in life, because we just know that from the time they are little, it's going to be my job to educate them. I think it's very different when a lot of parents think, okay, that's going to be the teacher's job to teach them reading. It's going to be the teacher's job to teach them math. And we tend to not do those things. But when we feel like it's our responsibility and we have 18 years to do it, we start doing those things earlier. Not like forcing education, but introducing concepts and things. But when we think it's going to be someone else's job, like tonight, my aunt's bringing supper. It's great. I'm excited. Thank you, Aunt Jean. But because I know she's doing it, I'm not in the kitchen, trying to do anything, because I already know that it's going to be provided and I don't have to worry about it. And I think a lot of people who send their kids off to school, or who don't know from year to year if they're going to be homeschooling, definitely it can play with your mind and make you not as invested in it, where if you know this is what I'm planning to do, it's something that you now have to keep working on. It's a little bit colder here in Germany. We had 13 degrees. Oh, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit either. I'm not very good at changing Celsius to Fahrenheit. As Americans, I know that we're a lot less educated than, thank you. The baby's loading a diaper for us. We got 9:38 p.m. Oh, it's late for you. In America, we definitely do not teach our kids as much as people do in Europe. When we had our now 11-year-old, we had a exchange student in our house who was from France. And we were going to watch Sound of Music with all of the kids. And some of my kids had never seen Sound of Music yet. I'm not saying you have to watch Sound of Music to be literate. That's not what I'm saying. But she, the French exchange student, had already seen Sound of Music in 5 languages. 5 languages, because she was learning multiple languages. In America, we're good if we know English well enough. And most people in England would say that we don't actually know English very well. Haha, yeah, it's only a stereotype of Americans. Haha, but yeah, it's a little bit different. No, I think that you could say most Americans, we aren't educating our children as well as we could. I think you would find it less with homeschoolers, but I still think with homeschoolers, we know, like I went to public school all along. So my mindset is very much, this is what they teach in public school and here's how we should teach. And I know that in Europe, they do it very differently. I feel like we need to be making sure that we're teaching kids necessary skills. Like I was saying, we do more like child-led learning, child-directed learning, where, oh, my Walmart order's not coming yet. We do child-directed learning where they get to pick more of what they would like to study, and we'll still study the same ideas, but maybe not the same topics. So if I have a child who's really interested in animals, it doesn't make sense for me to force them to learn about transportation when they're going to be able to understand and retain that information so much better if we learn about the topic that they're interested in. Okay, so she wrote, wow, 5 languages. Yeah, well, in the European Union, it is very common that we know our mother language as well as English. So yeah, I'm very pro EU, and I hope that in the future we can also say, yeah. Yeah, I think it's good to learn other languages and to learn about other cultures. Like even if you don't learn their language, learning about other cultures, I think that we can very much be stuck that, yay, Americans are great, and this is, you know, we're better than everyone else. But I think it's really important to learn about all cultures and learn about the uniqueness of each culture. So, yeah, I was saying something. Oh, child directed. So I think that your child's going to learn more if they can learn the thing that they're wanting to learn about. So we still teach the same, I'll teach English and I'll teach math, but we might do it with a lean towards the thing that they're interested in. So when we're doing math with little kids, okay, so you know, dog can have, you know, 7 puppies, and now we're going to do math with those 7 puppies and da da da. Okay, the United States of Europe, but it doesn't look like it is in the near future. The right wing has increased significantly again. There's a lot of interesting stuff politically and worldwide that's going on, so craziness. I think it's important why we teach our kids history also, so that they know where things are where things have gone bad in history and how we can avoid that in the future. So when we have kids that are interested in things, we will definitely, like I have one who's very, very interested in dogs. We don't have a dog, and there's reasons for that. We're not against dogs in general, just we don't have a dog. But he really likes dogs, and so we'll learn things based on dogs because he's interested in it. We have another child, I was mentioning before, a 14-year-old is super interested in like the Secret Service and the president, so he's studying stuff about that right now. And history, like political history type things. He's doing a class on the Constitution right now through Hillsdale College. So I think you just have to do with what is of interest to your kids. And how it comes to K through 2, if you're teaching, you know, a 4, 5, or 6-year-old. So like I have the 6-year-old, he actually can read, but if I was doing reading games with him, we might do like draw a picture of a dog on like a piece of cardboard or something and cut out where the dog's mouth is, and then have your child feed the dog, like make little dog bones or little pieces of food or whatever you want to call it with different words on it or different letters or whatever thing your child's learning at the moment, and have them feed the dog. Oh, can you feed the dog the word and? Can you feed the dog the word yes? You know, whatever the words are. Yep, we shall never forget what happened, especially us Germans. We learn a lot. A bad man with the beard, but still a lot of people, or many people don't understand that it's going in a similar direction again. Yes, important to learn history, even in the younger grades. Teach your kids history. Hey, baby. I know. It's been a long day, huh? We had dentist appointments this morning we had to get out for. Right? I know. And you didn't get to snuggle mama the whole time. So yeah, does anyone else have questions about K through 2 education stuff? Again, we like I would do themed things for my little kids, or like the books we're getting at the library, getting books that are of interest to those children. So like I have some kids, some of my littler boys are very interested in like construction equipment. So we get books that have bulldozers and things like that because they're interested. And that's how we learn about words on a page and those types of things. Sorry, that was probably loud. Other questions on here. My daughter wasn't able to watch this today, the 21-year-old. She's starting to watch more of the videos because she is now having her own little baby in a couple weeks, and she kind of remembers what I did in the house, but by the time she was in the older years, she wasn't watching so much of what I was teaching the little ones because she wasn't around. Like she was doing her own schoolwork in the other room or her own educational pursuits. So, but if you are something that came up with talking to this person from Germany, one thing that is good for teaching kids at a younger age is foreign languages, if you want to. It's not something you have to do, but especially if you know a foreign language, they retain it so much better at an earlier age. It's just whatever you give them to learn sticks better at an earlier age. I think we could all say that we memorized things better as a child than we memorize now. So those would be good things. Also, I wanted to talk about K-2 education with the idea of reading. Are good at reading and learn reading really fast. Some kids learn it at a slower pace, and either way, that's fine. We've had some kids, our 4-year-old right now is actually a very good reader, but we've had other kids who really don't catch on to reading till about 8 years old. And you might think like, oh no, they're 8 and that's a problem. The one who caught on to reading at 8 loves reading. He reads everything, and he reads at a college level. He's 14. He reads at a college level, and it wasn't that he couldn't read, it just didn't really click until 8. He could read you the words on the page, but it wasn't easy, it wasn't fun, it wasn't anything like that. But he reads great now. And we've found, and I've seen studies on this too, that it doesn't really matter exactly when the child learns. It's definitely good to keep exposing them to it and to keep working at the level that they're at. So I'm not saying don't teach reading. I'm not saying that. But not be so hung up on just the reading part of it. Because I saw a study, and it was talking about kids who were like pushed in like really forceful and were doing reading in kindergarten. And then kids who were given a more relaxed approach and were really doing a lot with history and science. And I think it was like 4th grade, they studied these kids again, and they found that the kids who were taught the science and the history, when they were taught to read, like when they were given more of those lessons, they had more hooks to hang their information on because they just had a broader knowledge base, that they had an easier time reading because they already had a place to fit those words into their vocabulary because they'd already learned the concepts through math and science. So when they went to read the word kitchen, they already had a knowledge of what a kitchen was. When they went and learned the word sunlight, they already had something to hook it to, where they're not just reading random words on a page that they don't have in, I'm having a hard time explaining it. But because they had a broader knowledge base, they had an easier time learning to read the words. And by 4th grade, you couldn't tell a difference between those who had been pushed to reading early and those who had been pushed to reading later. Yes, exactly. My girlfriend is English, her grandma, and the funny thing is that I can speak English better. Yeah, it was nice to meet you. Best regards, Lauren. Thank you for joining us today. It was really nice to have you. And so we definitely don't push any of these subjects in K-2. We teach all of them, we expose the children to all of them, but I don't push them faster than they're ready to learn. I think it is better to stay on addition until the child really gets addition than to be able to say we covered addition and subtraction this year, but the child doesn't really understand the concepts. They can just regurgitate it onto a page. I think it's more important that they really know why. It's kind of like history. Like it's good to know July 4th and what happened around those events, but it's more important to know what happened and why it happened than the date that it happened. I remember being in high school and a teacher talking to me. We used to have to do like essay questions in his class. And I would get so stuck on trying to remember dates of when things happened that I would do really poorly on the test. And so I remember him sitting down with me and talking about how it was so much more important to know the why behind why did this happen. It doesn't really matter. I mean, not that it doesn't matter, but that it was July 4th, 1776 that these things happened. It's more important to know why did the United States feel that they had to make a break from Britain, and what was going on at the time, and what were people's views on these things, and who were the good, like who were the good guys and the bad guys. Not that there were really good guys and bad guys, but the different opinions, where those things came from. It was more important to learn those things than to know the exact date, because everything that happened in history happened between real men and real women with real thoughts and real fears. And these were people just like we are that needed to make decisions of what was going on around them, and doing it again from a biblical worldview, like I was discussing before. It's very important that our kids know why. Why are we making these decisions as parents? Why, as a culture, are we seeing things going, like she was talking about in Germany? Why are we seeing things going bad? Who are the major players in this, and what can we change about it, and what can't we change about it, and how can we, teach our kids where God is good in all of this. So, more questions? I'm going to be done right about 4, so about 9 more minutes, if anyone else has anything. But I'm glad you guys joined us today. Again, this video is going to be put up on YouTube, so if you watch this video later and you have questions, go ahead and ask them, and I'll try to answer. If somebody asks me a question in this video or another video that I feel I can't give enough time to on here, then I would, like on a comment, then I would make another video. I have a notebook that I have video ideas. And a lot of my video ideas recently and in the next few weeks are going to still be baby related videos, because I recently had a baby. He's 6 weeks old. And my daughter is about to have a baby in just a couple weeks. And so I still have some more things I want to do. Things I want to make sure I've told her and that are on the videos that she can watch. And things that I've just been thinking about in the recent past. But again, I will make more videos if people have more questions about specific things. And if you have a question that is something that's just specific to your family, maybe an interesting disability you're dealing with or something like that, feel free to ask those questions too. If you are starting to homeschool, you've never homeschooled before, you can check out hslda.org, and they have a place where you can look up the laws for your state to make sure that you're following the guidelines of what the state says. For our state, we have to fill out a notice of intent when we start homeschooling, and then a subsequent year letter every year after that. And we have to have our student evaluated by a Maine state teacher who shows that the student has made progress over the year by writing a letter to the state. So that's what we do in the state of Maine. I guess my husband's on putting stuff. My husband's in the other room with the kids, so I think he's putting stuff on, which is cool. So I sit behind the camera, make these videos. My husband is the tech guy. He does all those other things. So he knows how to do that. It's something I could learn how to do, but it's something he knows how to do, and I put the brain power into other stuff. So the things that he's posting right now are what I was explaining, how we do teach different things in our homeschooling here. So we've now homeschooled through the K-2. We've homeschooled 8. I'm on my 8th child in K-2. I've got 2 currently, so numbers 7 and 8. We still have a 2-year-old and a 6-week-old who aren't homeschooling as of right now. I mean, they're homeschooling because I think that all of life is education. I think that every day you're teaching your kids something, whether that be how to make a meal, whether that be how to write a letter to somebody, how to make a phone call, how to play nice with your siblings, how to grieve through a hard time, how to speak nicely to someone, even if you feel like you have nothing nice to say. I think we, as a society, have forgotten how to speak nicely to each other sometimes. And we tend to be keyboard warriors and we get on and we type. We're not so kind to each other. Teaching kids how to deal with people who have differing opinions, and that we can not agree with somebody's opinion, but we can still love the person, and we don't have to be mean to them just because we have differing thoughts. That we don't have to, like, not everything is an argument. It's okay to disagree, and we don't have to think the other person hates us or yell at them or anything like that. There's people that I disagree with their thoughts on things, and I can still love that person and communicate with that person. So that's an important skill to teach your kids that isn't taught within the borders of a school building, like within the walls of a school building. So I think that's important. But any more questions? Oh, you hear the baby. He's making noises. Are you making noises? You filling your diaper? You want to see the baby? He's pretty cute. Here I am. Hello. This is one of my future homeschoolers, right? That's one of the things we learned this year. We took this year while we were doing, while I was pregnant, part of our science curriculum was learning about babies' development in the womb. And part of our schooling was learning how to help out around the house. So we taught new chores so that when baby was born, everybody could step up a little more and do things so that mommy could take a rest time. Because just as important as all those things that I talked about on those videos that the school requires me to teach, just as important is learning how to cook, learning how to take care of your clothes, so laundry, learning how to keep the house clean to keep germs away, how to sweep floors and wash floors. Hi, I see you. We're starting to smile. It's really fun. I know. You want to see? You gonna smile for them? Hi. Hi. How are you? Oh, I'm just gonna look concerned. I'm not gonna smile. Hi. You're gonna smile? You're so cute. But learning how to take care of things around you, but also learning how to take care of people, how to take care of this little guy, and also learning how he's going to develop over this first year of life, how he's going to, like, what he learns. We actually took a 30-hour class learning how our brains develop from the time that we're first born through, and how it helps you to learn, like learning, reading, and everything. By the two parts of your brain talking. So for those who don't know, we have an 11-year-old who has cerebral palsy. And so he had a stroke in utero. And this class taught us about how our bodies moving is actually what helps connect the two sides of our brain. So if you have a baby who doesn't crawl on their belly and then crawl on their hands and knees, they can be missing connections in their brain. And so if they're having learning troubles at an older age, of like a 12-year-old not learning to read very well, it could be because they didn't crawl and those connections weren't made. So it was actually really neat. And just the information they were telling us about how, like, smells are related to emotions and how you can help a child who's overly emotional with, like, smell therapy. Because if you think about it, like, you know, I smell, when I smell palm olive soap, it takes me back to my grandmother's house, because my grandmother always used palm olive, and I remember standing at the sink and washing dishes with her, and it just gives you those, like, good feelings. Your emotions are tied to smells, and so you can do smell therapy with kids to help them if they're overly emotional. So it was just a really neat class. So that was through Family Hope Center, which was very interesting. But yeah, so that's what I had to cover today. Any last questions? And then I'm going to get going because I have kids who want to go play outside. It's nice. It's warm, but it's nice out there. And then I've got to get some stuff ready because tomorrow is the 4th of July and we are going to go out to do evangelism and tell people about God while we watch the parade. I'm also be around to hand out things before fireworks, but we won't stay for the fireworks because we've got some kids that aren't so happy with fireworks. Right, baby? He probably wouldn't be happy with fireworks either. Yes, you wouldn't be happy with fireworks. He's just so cute. So, thank you guys joining me on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. Like I said, feel free to write a comment here if you have questions about homeschooling, and we'll see you guys next time. I'm not sure how to turn this off, so we'll see if this works.